Hi guys, it's story time, and by story time I'm going to try to share a little bit of maybe a kind of a sort of testimony. So in my previous video, part 1, I introduced a little bit of the Ignatian retreat that I'm in right now. And again, if you want to know more about Ignatius, I will paste a link down below to a video that tells you a little bit more about it. When someone wants to do the full experience, it's actually a 3-year journey, and it's every day, and for a lot of it you're in seclusion. There are different tastes, there are different scenarios, there are different kinds that you can do that have been adapted for someone who can't do an everyday, fully immersed 3-year journey. So I am doing one that was set up. It's 8 weeks long, and you're just asked to reflect and pray for at least an hour a day. They give you the material. You're reading and you're saying different kinds of prayers. You're meditating. You're thinking about your life and your desires, and you're imagining what life was like for Christ when he was on the earth. You're imagining kind of the heavenly realm and what it means for God's reign to come, and where you are, your part in the story. So the aim is to really come face to face with Jesus. And for everyone, that manifests a little bit differently. I mean, we're all unique, right? We're all created a little bit differently. So there's not going to be any two people that need the same things from Christ. Like the things that you need beyond love and peace is like whatever you need to be healed of, or wherever you need help to trust more. Like to just really know that God has walked the earth and he does walk with us. So God absolutely knows the things that we struggle with. God intimately knows the things that bring us pain, the kinds of things for which we long, and where we're sad, where we're hurting, where we're confused, where we're frustrated, where we lack understanding, where we feel that there's a lack of compassion or mercy or justice. God intimately knows those things. And so I wanted to share just a little bit from the last couple of weeks. We were introduced to the question, what do I desire? And you can give a cliche answer, which mine is like, to love God, to serve God, to do everything that I can to follow God. But do I really mean it? It's like a deep question if you're willing to go there. If Jesus calls each and every one of his disciples, if I'm trying to follow Jesus, shouldn't it mean that Jesus has called me then? So how have I responded to Jesus calling me? Am I doing it wholeheartedly? Have I given up everything to follow him? And what does it look like to give up everything? For some people, that's going to look like truly giving up everything. Becoming like a missionary, or going out into the desert and living in some kind of a self-sustaining community where they can just live off the earth, help one another, and pray for the world. For other people, they're going to be able to share and be generous, like beyond normal capacity or like what we would expect somebody to be able to do. And so, as I was thinking about that, I was really wondering, like, when I pray, I live in Berkeley, California. My husband and I have been living here for almost 5 years. And where we live, we have an apartment, we have rent control, which means I didn't really understand what rent control was before, but now that we're here, rent control makes it so that whatever level of rent you come into a place, it can only increase a certain amount every year. So that way we live within where the tech bubble is, and with all these people making insane amounts of money, it would be really easy, like the cost of living, landlords could just gouge everyone, and people would be forced to leave that don't have a piece of the tech puzzle. People who, have normal jobs, like teachers and postal workers, people who aren't making six figures. Even if they are, like, it depends what level you're at. And so probably for several years, we've been really fixated on wanting to own a home, like just having that itch, like, can we do it in Berkeley or nearby? Is it reasonable? And I have a friend who was just lamenting and saying, it actually is not, it's irresponsible to try to buy a house here from his standpoint, because he's like, with $1 million, going to $1 million debt to own a home, when you can have a home somewhere else that it's a fraction of $1 million, and then instead of having all this debt, or instead of having to have all this money wrapped up into a home that's just for yourself, for your family, for your little life, it doesn't open up to share to too many people. It doesn't make that great of an impact on the world, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to paraphrase his words. Like, it seems irresponsible because that amount of money can do so much good in the world, potentially. He's saying, why would I hold on to that and keep that for myself? Well, that's what you do if you live in a place like Berkeley, if you want to actually stay here and lay down your roots. So the process of kind of like examining, what are my desires? What do I desire? Why do I desire a house? Well, I can justify it really easily. I just graduated from seminary. I want to use my home wherever I am, this apartment, or a future apartment or a future home, whatever it is. I want to be able to use that for ministry. I want to be able to host my friends and my friends of friends and people that I don't know who are doing good work in the world. I want to be able to be a place where people can come, that I can host them, I can provide meals, I can, do ministry. I can have gatherings here with teenagers, I can have friends over, I can invite the neighbors, I can just be a place where people know that they can come and they can just be, and it's safe. So I can justify why I want a house and how I would use it for ministry. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But just really facing the question, like, what are my desires, has been a really great process. And then in the previous video, part 1, I shared about attachment. Like, am I really truly attached to that idea of having a home? I would like it. I would like to have that. Am I attached to it? And I was really kind of startled. Like, no, actually, I'm not attached to it. The reason that I want it is just because I don't have the ability where I live, and I don't own this place, to really fix up the front or the backyard. I can't make any changes. I can't knock down any walls. I can't add on a room. Even if I want to make more space or do something special for people that I want to host or invite over or share with. So I'm surprised that I'm not attached to the idea of owning a home, even though I want to. And I really praise God for that, because it's so easy to get caught up in that and wrapped up in it. And I can still, Adam and I can still take steps toward homeownership, but I at least am not overly consumed by, we gotta have this, we have to do this. So I just thank God, and I'm grateful that I am finding that I'm actually not attached to it. So that's one. And then I was really confused, or kind of like, I was really, what really surfaces when I pray, and this is really personal, but what really comes up is my desire to have a family. My husband and I would really like to adopt, and we don't feel like we're too old or anything like that, but with having just graduated from my master's program, I don't even have a sustainable job yet. I'm not making money, really. So the little piddly amount of savings that we have, the question is always like, should we keep hanging on to that? It's not very much, but it's more than a lot of people have. And just the fact that we can live in Berkeley means that we are part of the 1%. Like, even if we're barely making it here, I have to know that most people are not in this privileged of a position. So the little bit of money that we do have, I always say, like, I just want to give it to Africa. We, at my church, we heard from an economist who was explaining that there's this charity app that you can use to send money to people's phones, people that live in Africa, and then they can put that money toward whatever they need. And it's a lot better than being handed an amount of money or a coupon that says, like, this is what it's for. You have to use it for X, Y, and Z, and you can't use it for these things. Like, if somebody gave you $5,000 right now, what would you do with it? You already know, right? You don't need somebody to tell you that you should put it, this is for your debt only, or this is so that you can pay your water bill only, or this is so that you can get a new mattress, or this is so that your kid can go to school somewhere. You already know, if somebody gifted you $5,000, you know the best things to do with it. Somebody doesn't need to tell you. Like, if somebody told you, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't accept it, but it comes with strings attached, right? It just changes the whole feel. So one of the best ways to give to people in need is to give them cash. And it's not irresponsible. There are a whole bunch of things that, can come up, like, well, they're just going to spend it on alcohol or whatever, but in times of plenty, when somebody gives you a gift, when you have a little bit of extra money, don't you go out and have a drink? Don't you go to a winery? Don't you splurge and give yourself like a special gift or a treat or something? Like, yes, you do. So there's no reason that other people should deny themselves that. And people truly know what to do with their money. So it's like letting go of, I have to control that. Like, if I give my money away, I have to control what happens to it. No, you don't. Like, be free of that. Be free of that. And through your example of being free of that attachment, hopefully that'll inspire other people. So even if somebody did have kind of like what we would consider an ill motivation of what to do with money that they got, maybe they would be inspired. Like, oh, look at this person just freely gave me this. So what can I do that would be good with this? I have this crazy idea that if we gifted each other houses, there would just be plenty to go around, right? If somebody gave my husband and I a house, you better believe that if we were able to then buy a house ourselves, we would for sure gift the one that we either were moving away from, or we would buy a new one for somebody. Why, if somebody gifted us in that way, and that was like the norm, I would be so happy to be generous and to pass on whatever I have. So I know that's like a crazy idea, but I fantasize about this. So if I had a house, I would want to be able to share it. And that might look differently depending on the scenarios, and it might be, my sharing it might be different from somebody else's idea or vision of what it means to share. But the point is that I would trust God enough that I would share my home if I had a home. And I'm grateful that I'm not attached to it. So the thing that I was like, why do I feel like I shouldn't pray about this? My desire to have a family. It feels kind of like wrong. It feels like, well, in this position, in this situation that I'm at in life, I'm able to go and help other people. Like at the drop of a hat, a phone call, can come in, a text message, so-and-so needs help, or can you come and move this thing that I need help moving, or I have to go have surgery, can you watch my kids, or can you just be there with me? Somebody's sick and in the hospital, can you please come? Whatever it is, like, I need childcare right now. Like, I can do those things. If someone in my family got sick or if something happened, I could fly across the country and be there. Like, I don't have too many things preventing me from being able to serve other people. And so I guess the guilt comes up because I think that if I had babies, if I had small children, I'd have to be responsible for them. And that would limit me from being able to be spontaneously generous as I have been able to be. I'd have to guard my time more. I'd have to change up my schedule. I wouldn't be available the times when I usually am now. And I just physically couldn't show up to places like I can now. So I told my spiritual director, I don't know why that this thing comes up, like this, like, I get kind of shy about it. And I think, like, when I'm praying, the thing that really emerges, that comes up, is like, I really want to have kids. Like, can somebody just give me kids? Like, I want to adopt so bad. I want to have a family. I want to experience that joy. And then I go, okay, God, so God knows, and I don't really need to pray more about it because God already knows, and if it's meant to happen, it'll happen, and I should just, maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I shouldn't focus on that. So then I try to go and pray about other things, and I kind of like shove down that desire to have a family. So my spiritual director gave me that idea to pray. When I'm praying and that's coming up, like, God, if this is a desire from you, if it is right and good, then please increase it, and please make me take the necessary steps and make the connections that I need through the network of the world so that I can get a kid, so I can have a family. And then to pray, if that's actually not the right and the best thing for me, that's not what God really wants for my life, to pray that will decrease, that will diminish. And so I thought, that's like a really good way to pray. It's, I had somebody that I knew, and this was years ago, they said, we have to be careful with if your will prayers. Like, God, I want you to heal this person if it's your will, but if it's not your will, then what do you say? Like, don't heal them? No, you wouldn't want to actually pray that way, right? So, like, the if your will, like, if it's your will, please, da 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 da. If it's not your will, then, I don't know, I guess, like, I'll suck it up. This person just thought, like, let's not pray that way. Let's just pray, like, ask for the things that we want to ask for. And the answer will either be to have that thing happen, to let that be granted, or it won't be. And that will be the answer. And it might take years where you're thinking, like, the answer was no because it never happened. And then, like, years later, suddenly out of nowhere, the thing that you had prayed for years ago, like, suddenly appears or manifests, and you're like, oh, like, God totally wanted that for me too. That was God's will. It's just, like, in God's timing. So the thing that I've been really trying to face is, what does it mean that I want a family? Like, is that desire from God and in line with God? And if I'm seeking God fully, knowing that God, like living into the promise that God will give me those desires of my heart, then there's nothing wrong with me praying and asking for a family. And then I think the very act of praying for that leads to my taking action, like being proactive. And again, if the answer is no, it's just never going to happen. But at least I'll know that I tried. So what I'm saying is I don't have like a definitive like revelation, like, oh, I know that I'm meant to have a family. I feel like I should have one. I feel like, yeah, like now that I feel the freedom to express this prayer and this desire to God, like I feel like, yeah, like that came from somewhere. I'm more hopeful that it'll happen. And if it doesn't happen, then okay, I love God. I have so many children in the world. I'm a nanny. I'm an auntie. I'm a friend. You know, I've got so many kids in the world that I can love and care for and create memories with and, you know, help them to thrive. And that comes along with being a mother figure or a big sister or, you know, a cool friend to look up to, a mentor. So I'm feeling better and better about that, and I'm not shy about praying that anymore. And I just think it's increased my confidence to be able to pray about that. And then, like, I could go on and on. Like, there's so many other things. One more thing that I would share now, just so this doesn't like turn into like 25 hours, is that I've been really confused. Like, people are asking me, how are you doing? And how is the Ignatian journey going? And I feel like really good, really happy, really full of joy, really content, like really like this is cool. I'm really attuned to and in line with God right now. Like, I feel like I'm being challenged and pushed and inspired, you know, to grow closer to Christ and to desire God more. But then when somebody asks me, I'm like, like, don't ask me. I don't feel like explaining it to you right now. Just, like, you do the thing yourself. Like, don't ask me how I am. That kind of, like, pokes me, and I don't like that. And so I told him, it's like, it's been confusing, because, like, usually I like sharing. Usually I like being really vulnerable and being all, like, let the feels out. I love that, because I love, like, helping other people to open up and share. And I asked my spiritual director, like I said, you know, like, this is just really confusing. I usually don't feel so guarded, and I'm confused. Like, it actually, like, makes me want to cry. Like, I want to go away and be like, leave me alone. And so I asked her, and as she was listening, she said, well, you know, the image I am getting in mind is that it's kind of like when a caterpillar goes into its chrysalis, like, to transform into a butterfly. If you try to poke a hole in that, it's not good. You're going to ruin what's happening. They need to be protected inside that little womb. And then when they emerge, if you try to, like, mess with it, with that chrysalis, and you try to help that butterfly come out, you're going to ruin it. Their wings aren't going to be able to open up, and they're not going to be able to fly. And if they can't fly, they can't do what they're meant to do, and guess what? They're going to die. Like, they're just not going to have a good life. So she was saying, like, maybe a different way to approach it or to look at it is kind of like, you know, if you can think of, imagine somebody who's pregnant. You can't just, like, cut a window into their womb and look at the baby. Like, you can't do that. Like, during gestation, before birth, like, the baby's meant to be hidden and concealed. Like, there are things happening in there that you can't just, like, let me open you up and look. Like, I want to see. I'm curious. You can't do that. Like, you just can't do it. So a mother is very protective over her body and her child within, right? And so a mother who understands what's happening and who knows about pregnancy is able to be poised and say to the world, like, oh, please don't do that. That makes me uncomfortable, or that's going to put stress on me or the baby, or, I just don't want to do that, or I don't want to eat that, I don't want to have that. But like, they can be polite about it and they can be gentle about it. And, it comes from a place of like, it's not that I don't like you or don't love you or don't trust you. It's just that I also love myself and I also love my baby. I also love you. And this is just going to be better. And so instead of maybe feeling for myself like I have to be protective and I have to like go hide and like I have to be a warrior, like, put up my defenses, I can just say like, there's a lot happening there, like during this whole Ignatian retreat and process, and I can share maybe a little bit with you, but I'm not ready to share most of it with you right now. And that it can come from a place of love and understanding and compassion and peace. And it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm going through a transformation, definitely. But I'm just not ready. Like it still needs to take root, and I still am becoming acquainted and familiar with where this is leading me, and I'm just not ready to share exactly how I am or fully how I am or what this process has been, because it's just not ready yet. I'm still in the chrysalis. So I thought that was really insightful and really helpful, and that helped change. Now, like, my husband just came home from work and he's going to ask me, so how was your spiritual direction appointment? And I'm not going to be like, it was fine, leave me alone. I'm going to be like, it was really good. I would love to share with you someday. And the other cool thing is that, like, because I've been going through this, and it just, like, has filled me with so much, like, wonder and love, like, I want this for anyone. Like, I would love anyone to be able to participate, to partake, and to share in this, and to have their own journey. So I do want to share more with you, and like maybe someday I can do like a series on like the Ignatian journey that I've been through. But for now, this is just like part 1, and part 2 is just like a taste of kinds of the things that I've been challenged by, what has come up for me, and just learning to know the difference between like those 3 types of persons, and to really be able to trust God. And that my prayer is really, my heart's desire is really to increase my desire and my trust for God and in God, and to know that God is gonna give me those things. Like, God is answering those prayers right now. So it's been really cool, and I just wanted to share a little bit with you, and I hope this has encouraged and blessed you. And please like this video if it has, and when you subscribe, please click the notification bell so that way you'll know every time that I upload new content. And thank you so much for being with me. Bye.